Right, so there's the foregrip for the sling fire printing. While that's printing, we'll move on to the dirtying down of the stripe. So this is going to be almost my usual thing, but what I want to do with this, I think it's a bit bright, so I'm going to do a lot of dirtying down. So in addition to maybe 2 coats of black, I'm also going to do a dark brown if I've got it. Japanese ground self-defense force brown. I can mix a bit of black in that and make it a nice dark brown. While the foregrip is being printed, I've mixed up a darker brown and I'm going to do the wash on this. I've done a test piece on this and it's dulled down that silver quite a lot, which is great. So I'm figuring after a wash of the brown and then a wash of the black, it should look pretty good. So let's go. Now, I haven't got a lot of this brown and I've had to mix it up, so I'm going to spread it as much as I can. That actually looks good, especially all that muck in there. As you can see, I've added a couple of, I don't know, bureaucratic numbers here on the front. This will just helps to break up that large blue area. Knowing that I was about to do this and get this dirtied up, a few days ago I did a wash of a buff on the black, and that's sunk in nicely into the recesses and just helps to pick out some of the details. So it's sort of the same sort of thing in reverse, a light colour on a dark colour. Right, the other side. Just got to work quick because I'm running out of this brown. I want to get as much covered as possible. I don't want to have to mix up another one. I mean, you could leave this on much thicker. Get a really dirty appearance. I mean, it's for this Pox Eclipse Wastelander event, so it's all very Mad Max-ish sort of level of decay and dirt and rust. The only downside to this is I've still got these gigantic black magazines, and I should really do a light coloured wash on them. So there we go, a buff wash, wiping a lot of it off because it's kind of messy and sticky right now. But so turn that into that by doing this. I get it on all the nooks and crannies, which means you have to get it out of all the nooks and crannies as well, or most of it. This is where a paper towel just would not work. There we go. One more of those and my strife magazines are done. Always check the first side because add more liquid, it just flows wherever it wants to go. That was a photo of my shed, and despite the fact I'm only doing 3 blasters, I seem to have every conceivable surface covered with junk, including my poker table, which I'm trying to repair. So I've had to make another table, ironically, out of a tabletop and some table legs to keep this thing separate while I disassemble it. Also putting a scope on this, which means I'll have to print a Picatinny rail. So finished magazines. Never throw away tops of paint lids, they're great for holding screws in. So they're all the screws that came with the thing. I take out the Allen keys, get this part off. There we go. So never underestimate the use of a power driver. For unscrewing only though, I'd say, guys. You get your screw in, you screw up basically. So yes, I'm going to cut that tooth off just with my Dremel, just go straight down, maybe even flatten it out completely. I just don't like it sticking out there. And I'm only doing this because I have to, because I've got a deadline, and also it's raining outside again for the 15th straight day, but I'm not bitter. That just comes off like that. That doesn't need to be painted, so I won't. The trick is going to be to pull these two halves apart and watch what happens inside to find out where the problem is, why it's not leaving. I was so busy getting the front end in, I've probably just knocked something out here. Okay, seems to have come off nice and neat. Yeah, there's my problem. The plunger tube was not replaced properly because I was focusing too much on this and not watching what I was doing. Yeah, so that will pop now easily. Yep. Good. Okay. So the next stage is to take all the innards out and start painting the thing. So things I don't need to be painted, I'll put to one side, which is just about that bit. I don't normally paint the internals because I don't want paint getting in and flaking off and screwing up. I'll paint around the ejection port, just blacken it off with some vinyl dye, because that seems pretty cool. It stains the surface as opposed to coating it. So everything else I want to take out and put in a container. What I'm going to do before I do that is stop filming, take some photos, so I've got everything referenced. Okay, just took some quick photos and just found out my camera can take photos while I'm taking movies, so that's a nice little surprise. First thing I've got to do, these Malang 3D, it's printed on a couple of these spots. I'm just going to fill in with some putty because I want it to go away. So that's what it's going to do. Fill it, sand it, and then paint bits of it. So, straight over. Using a craft knife, just going to use it like a trowel and force it into all the gaps. Not going to matter. Oh, yes, there's something else. I cut off those two backward facing teeth, and of course it shows me the interior of the print, the hole, the hollowness, whatever you want to call it. These fairly thick walls, these guys, like 2 to 3 millimeters. Here's my partially finished 4-stock. Unfortunately the print failed, but it's a really nice tight fit. So a couple more things I'm going to be doing. This scope I'm going to put on the thing. These crosshairs are silly, so I'm honestly thinking of putting just a pin across either way and making a nice fine target crosshair. And yeah, or maybe leave that one and just cut that one out. That would probably be a simpler thing to do. And if I can find it some sort of lens or glass to go in there, maybe even just some plastic. So here we have the shell of the Slingfire, the magazine well, and the buttstock. Just going to give it another coat of undercoat. Right, time for the smoke and soot. Change this out for some of the transparent smoke. we're done. So all I need to do now is finish off wiring the internals, chuck it in. Hey Rumple, just finished wiring this up, got a 9-volt battery in it. Let's see how it goes. Okay, one of those little fortunate little happy accidents. I was talking about this and filming this, and I just put the putty in there to refill it when the battery on the camera failed. So I'd left it, gone and changed the battery, put the other one on the charge. When I came back and smeared this in, it actually went in a lot easier and a lot stiffer, giving it time to skim, I guess. So it looks a lot better than the first time I did it, so hopefully that's the case. Right guys, another day back in the shed. It's raining again. It's almost like living in Washington with Captain Xavier, except it's less hairy and less noisy. Now, what I'm going to do now is I've started painting the body, the nerve parts, and I've filled these little built-in logos they put in, and I've filled them so it's ready to go. So what I'm going to do is paint this now. Now, because I'm using spray paint and it goes on pretty thick, I don't want to paint this whole thing, and then when it comes time to fit this on, I've got problems, I've got to sand stuff, so I'm just going to mask it. And it's going to be a pretty easy mask because it comes to the bottom of that line. So I'm just going to run tape across there, all the way around, and at the bottom for this bit. And then I can just spray this separate. The colouring I'm going to use is, I've seen it online. A young fellow, he did a halo bullpup, the MA40. I've got one. I'm intending to do the same thing on that, but I thought I'd use this as a practice, which is a black coat. I'm not sure whether it was gloss, semi-gloss or matte, and then graphite powder rubbed in, and then it's sealed with a matte sealer, and you get a really nice metallic look. So that's going to be that. And the top is going to be this digital desert camo. Now I went to get some graphite powder recently and they didn't have any in my local store. They have a jar about this size for like $35, which is a bummer, but they did have graphite pencils, which is the same thing, it's just in hard pencil shape you can draw with, but you rub this on sandpaper, you get graphite powder, so, and that was only a few bucks, so that should be enough to do this gun. This has been wrapped up like this for almost a week, so I'm going to pull this tape off and see how much this sponge rubber is holding the shape. Quite a lot, so that's going to be easy to fix. What I have to do is make sure there's enough of the sponge to fit in there, but not too much that's going to force it out. So what I'm going to do is curve that back, take off this anti-adhesive paper, roll it down, and just eyeball it for now, because this is a really nice fresh sharp blade, so it's going to do a really good job cutting. Still a bit long. I also have to make sure the cut is at 90 degrees to the edge of the sponge, because when it actually goes in it's going to be at 90 degrees. Okay, there we go. Now, this is going to be fun trying to get this in here with the glue. The way I'm doing it is pushing it down, pushing from this side, pushing the excess over and in as I push this edge down to get it in, and it's gone in really easily and quickly, which is great. Now what I'm going to do, this is eventually going to be trimmed off and everything, but I'm going to wax some more tape over it and just hold it down, leave it for another few days, so I know it's going to stay there, and then I'll trim it up later. I've probably got a week of painting before this blast is finished, so it's not going to be an issue. I'm going to put a lot of tape on this to make sure it stays where I want it to stay. Alright guys, just undercoated all the stuff for the sling fire. Now back to the sledge fire. These are the shells that it comes with, has a whole 3 darts. Now I've taken out the air restrictor, put in a heavier spring, but also these things, I don't know if you can see there's a couple of dimples. There's holes in the top end of each cylinder, which I can only assume that since the dart hasn't left the cylinder yet, it lets some air out and you lose a bit of pressure. So I've just put tape over them, and I've wrapped a bit of tape around there to keep this bit the same orange colour, natural colour. And now what I'm going to do is tape the rest of this, mask it off, and just spray this top end gold so it looks a little bit shell-like. And we want the... So that's just wrapped. Now that black there you can see is actually masking tape, so it's not going to... The overspray is not going to affect it. A little bit of tape. And we're done. So, 8 more of them, we can spray them gold.